All right. Hey, good evening, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Saturday, June 28th, 2025. This is your evening update on Tropical Depression number 2, located in the Bay of Campeche, way down in the Gulf of America or Mexico or whatever we're calling it this week. Welcome back to the channel. It is the beginning of the 2025 hurricane season. Technically started about a week ago with Tropical Storm Andrea, which came and went way off in the Atlantic, away from any kind of interest that I would have in it. But PD2 is a little closer to home, and although I'm still not particularly worried about this one, not expecting any U.S. impacts, figured we go over it real quick, kind of knock the rust off, and just kind of get the first video of the season in, because after this one, we may have something next week, and then, well, who knows after that. It may be kind of a quiet July before things really get going in August. So let's go ahead and take a quick look from the National Hurricane Center this evening. This is the first forecast advisory for Tropical Depression 2. Maximum sustained winds 30 miles an hour. That movement to the west-northwest at 7 miles per hour. So this is buried deep down in that what we call the Bay of Campeche, which is essentially this little bay that moves around this part of the Gulf. So this system pretty far to the south, commonplace for a system to develop this time of year. No shock that this larger, broader envelope that has also got Invest 95L, probably pretty soon to be Tropical Storm Flossie, I think is the sixth name over there. So having two systems moving along together, no major shock to the system here. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for portions of the coastline of Mexico, but you can see they do not include any parts of the U.S. all the way down to Brownsville. So no surprises here with the cone either. It is forecast to become a tropical storm. This is a summary of those watches and warnings in effect. If you live there, know somebody that lives there, you want to take a look, you can pause it or whatever. The statistics on this aren't particularly impressive. Only 30 miles an hour maximum sustained winds, and that central pressure is 1,011 millibars. Remember, your standard sea level pressure is 1,012, so certainly not particularly impressive in that regard either. But it's doing its best, I'm sure. So, satellite presentation from the new GOES 19 over here on Tropical Tidbits. Big friend of the page, Levi Cowan's been working hard to get this site up and running this year, and we really appreciate Dr. Cowan's efforts. It is a boon of good information and forecasting for the season. So couldn't produce this high quality content or whatever quality content you think it is without Tropical Tidbits. So looking at the satellite presentation, we're going to slow this down. We'll get the last few frames of the visible imagery for the evening, and center circulation pretty apparent down here. It's not particularly well defined, but it's probably somewhere under this cloud canopy. You're starting to have a lot of upper level cloud interference from the system to the south, so not particularly well defined, but it is definitely there. One of the things we notice in terms of structure of this storm is it's not particularly well organized in terms of the thunderstorm activity. You've got a band of heavier thunderstorms here. You can see these little popcorn cloud tops here with those thunderstorms popping up into the upper part of the atmosphere. And then you have another banding feature, kind of a broken band wrapping around from the east. But I would assume that since the storm is so close to land, you're going to have portions of the wind field that are over land in multiple directions. That's probably going to inhibit the convective activity to some degree. It really just needs time more than anything else. It's over plenty enough warm enough waters. The waters aren't crazy warm, but they're about 29 degrees Celsius. That's mid 80s. That's enough to get the job done for sure. And the envelope is starting to tighten up a little bit. We did have Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft in there earlier this afternoon. The first plane took off. Another one's taking off tonight. And then I'll be at work overnight when the third one takes off. Hooray. So again, pressure not very strong. 1,012, 1,011 was falling in their two fixes they got. So winds not particularly great. We didn't get a full view of that kind of southwest corner of the system, but I think they're seeing a tight enough wave envelope here, or at least when you have the circulation in three parts, that it's very tough to imagine that there isn't at least some closed circulation center. But the wind shear was a bit of an issue for this, so it was having a little bit of a problem closing off completely, but they saw some thunderstorms. They saw some low-level circulation. They had enough checks in the box to go ahead and slap the label on this one. So, again, no major surprise. Looking at the better large-scale environment for TD2, and we see that the upper-level low over Mexico is probably our big player here. We have an upper-level low right here over northern Mexico. This is kind of digging out some mass from the western part of the Gulf, and you can also see a band of heavier shear moving down to the kind of southern part of the Gulf. So with that in mind, this little canopy that the storm has found itself under, again, no surprise that the low pressure center is so far to the south here, because this is where the lower wind wind shear is. And there's a little bit more of a mass ventilation right here, so this getting a little bit of help to have that air rise some. We wouldn't have saw it form up here because the wind shear is simply too high. You can see these belts of stronger winds in the atmosphere aloft moving down, and that low will slowly retrograde back to the west, which is basically why this is just going to carry itself right in. And with high pressure kind of hanging out to the north here, this is going to get pretty cleanly shot into Mexico without any worries and no last minute deviations. Not going to come running up into Texas by any stretch. GFS model, again, shows this well. It has that center basically onshore on the GFS, kind of a resolution error. Model showing that center very, very close to land, and it kind of has it pick up just a little bit, like it kind of rotates up like pinwheels almost, just a little bit, and then it moves into the coast there. Can't even show you the high-res models like the HWRF or the HFAS or whatever, because none of them seem to think the storm exists. They have a center fix here, and then they're just like, nah, that can't be real, and then they just like go down to the Gulf or the Eastern Pacific, and then they just take that storm and do something with it. So we can't even show you the high-res models because they just aren't picking up on it because it's so weak. So, not necessary in this case. Guidance ensembles pretty tightly clustered. No surprises there. This is going to go inside and then to Mexico, and then it's just going to get buried in that heavy terrain. A lot of rainfall going to be the biggest impact on this for sure. A lot of northern Mexico is going to get a ton of rain from the system. But again, no major impacts for the U.S. So one more look at the cone. Pretty much what we got here, guys. That's about all I got for you. Not too many other surprises. Going into next week, we are going to be watching this part of the northern Gulf and kind of southeast U.S. coast. We're going to have a trough kind of extending down into this area. There's going to be a lot of rainfall from Mobile and Biloxi all the way across northern Florida, southern Georgia. There's going to be a lot of rainfall next week. And right around the July 4th weekend, we are going to have some outside chance for a tropical system to try to spin up either on this side of the Gulf or maybe this side of Florida if it's over water. Again, like I talked about in the page, I would not be overly concerned. I don't think the Hurricane Center put it on their map tonight. They did not. But if you saw a little yellow marker here, like early next week, don't be surprised if you see a 0% or a 10% tomorrow or Monday. Something we're going to be watching closely throughout the week. Oftentimes, these systems are just nuisances. They're not really a big deal. They're just heavy rainmakers. And they're just weak low pressures that form up, and they form up in the winter too. And we don't call them, tropical storms. We just call them, lows or whatever. So something to watch next week. Not gonna be too big of a deal. If it happens before Monday or Tuesday, we'll be able to have another video on it. But I'm gonna be out of town Wednesday through the end of the weekend, so I will not have my recording stuff. We'll have everything on Facebook, obviously, but I will not have any recording ability. So hopefully it won't be too big of a deal. But if you need any more updates, the Facebook page is much more frequently updated than if you're watching this on YouTube. So that's what I got for you guys this afternoon, this evening. TD2, no big threat. Andre is long gone, and we are just going to continue to hopefully ride a quiet season until August, and then we'll see what happens. That's what I got for you guys this evening. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.